So let's hop right into the replays. This replays is actually on LGL's account because it's more recent than the ones on mine. And I'm showing these replays because it's just in case for those who are not very familiar with PvP mechanics, and I just want to kind of showcase the team in action. So we'll start from the first game, and you can tell, you can look at the draft phase here. So first ban is Juggler because their team only has one tank, and my opponent protects Imelda and Brenda, so I'll go ahead and ban out Rosalia on the second ban. And you can see for my team, I lost Juggler on ban 1, and I protect Luna and Rosalia afterwards. So first thing you want to do, especially on player 1, is you push your Luna as far up as possible to the point where nothing on your opponent can threaten your Luna, so as far ahead as possible. So this is why it's kind of nice to ban Rosalia, since it allows you to position your Luna further up. So player 1 has a big advantage for these type of boxes in a mirror matchup because you activate your Luna first. So my opponent has to use his mobility booster before he can reach my Luna, and by the time that happens, he already loses a unit. So here you can see Sigma in action. He gets to run 6 steps, use his Ranger's Heart. And here actually you see Sigma can only move 1 step. This is because I forgot to equip Luna's exclusive. So Wind God Realm is only 2 range. Normally when Sigma enters his strike, is it called strike? No, snipe mode from his talent, he cannot move, as you can see here, and unit range is increased by 2. But because of how Wind God Realm works, you can actually move within the Wind God Realm up to 2 tiles. So this is a pretty nice combo, and it allows you to reach into their team on turn 1. And Sigma, even without an attack buff, can kill quite a few things. So at this point, he lost a unit for free. Sigma gets to retreat 4 tiles with Roundabout thanks to Wind God Realm as well. I just go in, nuke the Yulia. It's fixed immune so it doesn't die immediately, but it's at 1 HP and you can't do anything. So okay, here we get to demonstrate how Unicorn Angelina works together with Luna. You can run 7 tiles initially because Unicorn counts as a grounded unit. And you pull Luna, so you will always be in Wind God Realm. And you can run up to 4 tiles if you make use of both tile skips from Wind God Realm. And with that, although I can only move 3 here because my Wind God Realm is 2 blocks, but it's enough to reach the Zerida, kill it, and this game's kind of over from this point. Okay, so on to the next one. Game 2. You can see here, first ban, Hobo, protects the tank and healer. And I choose to ban Zerida over Rosalia because my opponent did not ban Juggler. So my protects were actually Zerida and Juggler because I think that the Zerida is more useful against the tank. Although Rosalia is actually still viable here. Okay, from this replay we will be able to see. So the first things you want to do is you end turn on the units that are unlikely to do anything this turn, which is Claret, because you need to get her talent. Juggler is just guarding, Zerida is just using faction buff. This turn order, like minor turn order things. I actually ended up ending turn on Sigma because I don't think he's gonna do much before the Juggler is dead. So I want to conserve 1 turn of faction buff on my Sigma. And right here we can see Rosalia goes in. If you're not too familiar with how Rosalia works, you can look at Sword of Protection. When Rosalia possesses Faith, which is her talent, after using this skill you can move an extra 3 blocks and act again. So after Chivalry, I can move onto this tile, which will have enemies within 2 rings of myself. So you can kind of visualize the ring here, which allows me to get a talent stack and I can act again. And you can see this is a Werewolf Juggler with only Triton. It will just straight up die to Meteor Rosalia Twilight. Rosalia with Griffins is obscenely tanky, on terrain especially, and it does a shitload of counter damage. After that, I just retreat my Rosalia and I just play with the numbers advantage. At the end, after Rosalia moves, Yulia moves, I decide to just take the kill with Juggler at some point, I think. Yeah. Yep, that's the second game. First ban the tank, second ban Luna after he protects Yulia and Rosalia. So, rinse and repeat. Okay, first thing I wanna point out about how Rosalia works is that the map is just big enough so that normally, if you don't move anything forward, Rosalia is unable to reach the other team because after you move to here, your Chivalry, you will be here. So if you don't move anything forward, you will not be able to have any enemies within 2 rings, which means you cannot get your Faith stack, which means that you cannot act again after using Sword of Protection. So my opponent moves the Yulia forward, which allows me to activate my Rosalia. And just get a quick kill, retreat to the tree, forces out a skill from Rosalia. Clocks, runs back, but at this point, my opponent has 2 healers left, there's nothing left to threaten my team. I can move Luna all the way forward. Once again, we'll see Sigma doing his thing, running 6 steps, using Ranger's Heart. Moving forward, just killing the Iris. With no attack buff. Retreat 4 steps. After this, with Tidal Surge, I'm able to reach all 3 enemy units, don't even need to use alternate. Yulia is not fixed immune, and he's below 70%, so I just take that, and this game is over. Slowly ending this game. Now on to game... game 3? No, that was game 3. So on to game 4. The double match. First ban on Juggler, protects tank healer. I choose to ban out Brenda. Not really sure why. I think Rosalia would probably be a better ban most of the time, especially since I lost Juggler. But it doesn't matter. So here I kind of want to point out that this is the formation you would use if you ended up not being able to ban the Rosalia, because you need to ban like Hobo and Tank. So you will put Rosalia in the middle, you put Sigma in front of the cliff tile, you will put the other 2 DPSs beside, usually Angelina bottom, Claret at the back, and you will put Luna somewhere else here. So usually what we do is, if the opponent puts Rosalia in the center, what you want to do is you use Luna, Wind God Realm and Faction Buff in front of Rosalia. If the Rosalia doesn't bring a ranged skill, she will only be able to reach either Luna or Angelina, which is a suboptimal trait for them. The other units are more important. So using that, you activate your Rosalia while protecting her at the same time. But in this game, the Rosalia wasn't in the center. So even with my Luna being on this column, there's no risk. The opponent Rosalia is not activated yet. Sword of Protection, trying to get some aura, I guess. Some stats. I enter off Claret because she's not doing anything yet. And I'm pretty sure I was just checking damage with this Rosalia. Just put Sword of Protection, use my 3C. Twilight doesn't work because it's double Lancer, but it doesn't matter. Emilia just dies. Emilia's pretty weak against physical damage. She's only good against magic damage, and there's not that much magic damage in this mode. After he lost her first life, she's double Lancer, Sigma's double infantry. I don't even need an attack buff to kill this, even through the defender's proc. Retreat 4 steps. Luna tries to hit my Rosalia with Raging Thunder. And even with Holy Pegasus, he takes a shitload of counter again. Swing God Realm, I push his team back. I retreat my Rosalia with alternate. And I do enough damage to kill this Luna. So at this point, with this numbers advantage, it's not quite possible for him to win, because whatever comes in to kill my unit, I will kill him back. So at this point, yep, he doesn't even kill my Claret. There's not much he can do. So second game, game 5 against the same opponent. This time he opts to protect his Imelda plus Brenda combo, so I ban out both his tanks. So if you're not playing against an opponent Rosalia, your formation doesn't really matter, but just remember to put your Rosalia in the center, because it's the only role where she can run straight forward, which gives you the most threat range. So my opponent moves Zerida instead of using Whip immediately on Brenda. So I'm one step ahead in this matchup. I activate my Luna first, and yeah, here you can see if within your first action you are able to get your talent stack, you can actually open with Sword of Protection instead of Chivalry, because Sword of Protection has a lower cooldown. So you will cycle your skill faster. Chivalry, get a kill. And at this point, my opponent has to use Brenda directly before using Queen's Whip. Because if he uses the whip now, my Sigma is just gonna kill it. So he dives forward, goes for my Luna. Loses a ton of HP. This is one of the reasons why initially I was running Brenda in my team, but I realized she needs an Iris or Wyler behind her so that she can heal after she hits. But if you have Iris and Wyler and Imelda, you're gonna end up with like 2 supports and your team is just gonna not have enough damage. So that's why I removed Brenda from my team. So I collect a Brenda kill. And at this point, I just throw up my Sigma, trying to harass the Zerida, lower health. So you can see, Sigma without an attack buff against a Zerida with hide and seek and last rites, I'm able to do almost kill her. So if I have an attack buff or if I crit on that hit, this Zerida is probably dead. I mentioned the crit because Sigma is using Crystal Stinger, which means that is crit and crit damage. So if you don't crit, you're losing out on a lot of damage with Crystal Stinger. So that's a bit of a RNG because Sigma himself doesn't have very high crit, but it is what it is. So after that, I use alternate, Tidal Surge. I'm able to reach all 3 of them with Angelina's 3C. Trying to kill the Zerida, but Zerida has too much damage reduction. I clock, go for another one, and it still doesn't kill. And I don't get any freezes in both, so it is what it is as well. My opponent makes the mistake of mass healing. Although this game was kind of over anyway, and he retreats. On to game 6. First ban Hobo, second ban Tank. Following that formula, protect Luna and Rosalia. This game I even have a juggler. So that's probably, I think I banned, yeah, actually I banned Tank and juggler still. There's no Zerida on this team. So with a juggler on the map, it basically means my opponent needs to spend at the very least 2 hits to kill the juggler. So I will have the upper hand in terms of tempo. So with this Sigma with no attack buff, I was just testing damage here, I'm pretty sure. I could have just used Luna first if I wanted to. And I just nuked the Luna out of orbit. Because Luna doesn't have last rights. So at this point, because I moved in front, so Rosalia has enough distance so that she can hit my juggler. But with juggler tanking 2 hits, he still needs the Brenda to follow up, and I have all my DPS still ready to go. And I think my opponent realizes it and just retreats. Game 7. Ban juggler, ban Emilia, double tank ban. Whereas I don't have tank and then I don't have Zerida. Play 1. First Luna to go usually wins, if you play it correctly. My opponent moves Zerida, which means that there is still no threat to my team, because this Rosalia is really far back. You really need to put Rosalia in the middle if you play this matchup. So I just enter on my Claret because I don't need to do anything yet. Uses Whip on Brenda. Here I commit my Rosalia for the kill on Brenda, because I wasn't sure if Sigma without an attack buff is a guaranteed kill on Gargos, so I didn't need to take that risk, so I just commit my Rosalia. Even through Defenders of the People, he just dies, and he's forced to use his Rosalia to kill my Rosalia. So after this, there's no more threat to my team. I just run my Sigma all the way in front, try to shoot the Claret. Here you can see once again, Sigma with no attack buff. He didn't get it from his exclusive, there's no Zerida on my team. And it almost kills through a defense buff last rights Claret. So it's pretty good damage, and it just shows the potential, how much damage he can do. And not only that, he runs back 4th house with Ring God Realm. So here we see the Angelina Luna combo again. Just reach into the enemy team. 3C kills the Claret. This is why you play Angelina. Sometimes you get these kind of bullshit freezes and you just win the game off that. Especially against lower teams, if you freeze their healer in the fog, then you just auto win. There's no counterplay to it, unless your healer doesn't get frozen. You can disrupt formation, you can freeze the tank, you can freeze the healer. Yeah, Angelina is a RNG hero, but sometimes that's what you need. So on my 8th game, there's actually no game here, because this is a guildmate and he gave the win to me. So 9th game, this is one of the rougher matchups. It's a Hobo with 2 tanks and CC White healer. So 2 tanks, 2 healers, and a Yulia. So here I think I ban Juggler first, but actually the correct ban is to ban Hobo first. I guess I was confident that my opponent would ban tank plus a DPS instead of the Hobo, but usually it's better to not take that risk. Just ban the Hobo first, then ban the other tank later. Here I still protect Luna and Rosalia, but against this matchup, you could protect Zerida if you wanted to, because they'll probably ban it, it's the only assassin. Or they will ban Angelina, which is the RNG disruptor. So Grenier is the second priority tank ban for me, behind Juggler, because this hero has Last Rites, has Bolt Ranger, has a RNG counter first, and without using faction buff, without defense buff, just using 3C he already hits 700 defense with 2 talent stacks. And if you hit him on his Tau, he's basically on a city wall. So he's the second hardest tank to kill, even though he doesn't have a revive. And we will see that in action later. I get to push Luna all the way up because my opponent is a stall team and there's no threat to me. So in this game, because there's not many Greniers running around, so I'm basically just checking damage with Heaven's Guard on both my Rosalia and Claret, as you can see here. It's supposed to do the most damage to Grenier. It does a decent amount, but not close enough to be a kill, even though I'm already hitting a guarded unit. That's 3 talent stacks, he goes up to 800 defense before defense buff. Retreat. I force a heal. And here, yeah, he summons a second tank. Here I know Sigma isn't going to do much damage, but I commit Sigma's skill anyway, because I want to force Iris to heal the Grenier. Retreats. So he's used both of his healers, which opens up my Claret to finish the job next turn with 2 hits. Here I retreat my Rosalia, and I go in and fish for a freeze. Sadly, even hitting 6 units, I didn't get any freezes, so I just retreat. Yulia moves because there's nothing she can do. Here, Claret doesn't even get a kill on the first hit. So that's why I pointed out earlier that I didn't feel like it was worth it to run Rough Sea on Claret, because you're probably not gonna kill the tank anyway. You can see here, Grenier, he got a defense buff from some random Tenios, but even with Heaven's Guard hitting a guarded unit, he's not able to finish off a Grenier that has less than half of his Bolt Rangers and no Last Rites. So yeah, Claret in this mode is not the greatest way to kill tanks, but if you hit the tank enough times without a Weiler, it's gonna die. So that's good enough for me. So even though I committed a lot for this Grenier kill, I have enough time to reset because my opponent's team has very little threat range and mobility. So after this, I'm able to just hard reset. I pull back my Sigma, I pull back my Rosalia, cycle my Angelina's cooldowns. I put my Luna in front because there's no threat of Luna dying to Yulia anyways, so I just want to pressure him a little bit. Yeah, I'm just waiting for my cooldowns to reset now. Can skip forward a little bit. Just waiting. Eventually, he tosses up the Yulia. Yeah, I'm just cycling cooldowns now. Now Strong Wind Snipe is ready. Tosses up the Yulia. And I just check damage, because I know Yulia can't counter heal me after this. Fishing for a Curse Lance proc. Yulia does try to hit me, but with the Zealots low, they don't do any damage to Luna. At this point, my Angelina's ready to go again. I fish for a second round of freeze. Pushes their entire team into the fog because they are camping the back row. I get a freeze on the tank, but I know it's not a kill on a Bolt Ranger Iris. So what I do here is I block the Gizarov. Here, I'm pretty sure the best move for him is to actually move the Construct out, hit me once, and then use Ultimate Construct. The Ultimate Construct can hit again, and then his Death Construct will be able to hit for a third time. But I don't know why he opts to use Dark Dragon Breath. So he only has 2 small constructs on the map. And both of them together is not enough to kill my Angelina. So this Yulia is here, and earlier I saw the Yulia take fixed damage, so I know my Rosalia can kill it for sure. So I removed the next most annoying thing on the map, which is this construct. In the process, I end up killing my Angelina, but it's okay, she did her job already. My opponent blocks the CC White in himself for me. So that's a free kill. You can see here, can't move out, 3 mobility. And I'm still waiting for my Rosalia skill to come off cooldown. So what he does is he desperate measures to act again, but what this does is actually gives me turn priority. So because he acted again, next turn I go first and he can't even use the Lancer to guard his Yulia. And after I kill this Yulia, it will be the end of the game. Even with Godly Menace active, it's not enough to prevent the kill. Since he didn't do counter damage, Ice Shard will collect the kill. Now for the final game. So you can see from like this entire set of replays, there's a lot of people that's running Luna, but they're all running it without Sigma, which I find it surprising. I didn't meet a single Sigma throughout my entire set of games on like 3 accounts, which is really surprising to me. I think he's very underappreciated. Let's see, what will Sigma do this game? No Rosalia on enemy team means my Luna gets to walk all the way up, especially on player 1. Opponent moves Zerida instead of the mobility buffer, so I get to end turn on something for free. So I get to activate my Zerida, faction buff up the rest of my team. Moves the Imelda now. This one I am more confident of Sigma being able to collect the kill because gargoyles are not full health, so they lose a bunch of stats from the fly attack. And I actually have a faction buff this time compared to the previous games. So Sigma once again getting away with murder. Retreating all the way back into my team. At this point I just kind of throw my Angelina in because I want to wait for the Luna to move first before I move my Rosalia. Just try to check the damage on Imelda, and as you can see, even with Judge Talisman, with the Unicorn Troop, I can't even kill a healer without any buffs with Judge Talisman on Fighting Monks. So Angelina's single target damage is quite disappointing, so best to stick to her as a support instead of trying to find a freeze into a kill. Luna without a faction buff can't even counter kill my Angelina. And I just collect the Zerida, which is, in my opinion, the biggest threat remaining on this team. This game is pretty over already with the number advantage. But you can see now, demonstrate once again, Rosalia with terrain and her counter damage. If the Claret actually ran the full circle around 4 steps, it probably would have at least killed my Rosalia, but he would have still died. And yep, that's the last game. Okay, I'm gonna add a portion at the end of this video. This is my main account, and I'm just gonna extend the video a little bit to hype up Sigma. So enjoy. Okay, I'm gonna make a quick edit here because I literally just learned this about Sigma today after I planned out the rest of the video. And it's one way to play Sigma is that on the turn 1, you might want to go on a tree just so you can proc your talents effect because it triggers every 2 rounds. So once you end turn on a forest, it will go on a 1 turn cooldown, which is what you see right here now. Cannot trigger solitary wheel snipe effect. So when you have this one turn cooldown and your Ranger's Heart is off cooldown, you can basically use Ranger's Heart every turn and you will be able to snipe. So how this works is, you can see here, 1 turn cooldown. You use Ranger's Heart, but your talent is still on cooldown, so you don't go into your, what's this called? Snipe status. So you can see my range here is 1, my attack range. But I have this Ranger's Heart buff, it lasts 1 turn. So even though it lasts only 1 turn, when I end turn, it's still considered as a forest, even if I'm not actually on a forest, although I am here. When you end turn, you will trigger your talent, and you can do your 3 range or 6 range attack with Strong Wind Snipe. So, skip forward a bit. So you can see now, the conditions are the same. Cannot trigger Solitary Wheel Snipe effect, 1 turn cooldown. Ranger's Heart is off cooldown because of how much you cycle. 2 rounds cooldown. So Ranger's Heart, end turn, enter snipe status, and then you attack. And because of how much you cycle, you can actually roundabout after every attack because this thing only has 1 cooldown. So when you keep using Ranger's Heart, this thing basically cycles itself. And then the next turn, run in, Ranger's Heart, end turn, enter snipe status, attack. Roundabout onto the terrain, and you look at the cooldown. I just used Strong Wind Snipe last turn. It's on 1 turn cooldown now. So basically you can Strong Wind Snipe every other turn. So this video took longer than I expected, but it does make sense given that it's 10 games, even if I don't play through the full thing. But yeah, as you can see, this team is very good at creating a big advantage on turn 1, and it matches up well against the other aggro teams that are running around. So it's going to be a difficult matchup against those hard tank push teams, but as you can see in game 9, it's not completely unwinnable. Since we've come to the end of the video, I just want to take a quick moment to ask if people want to see a specific type of content on this channel, like continuing my build series, which I wait for Werner and Wetham, because I thought that they were meta-defining, which is not so much for Cortez and Elma. Or maybe there's an interest for a more general and basic sort of Apex guide that's easier to digest for newer players, because I realized that the Apex replays that I put up generally have a lower viewership compared to these, what I consider my side content. I still intend to do the replays, but I just end up playing lesser towards the end of the season, so I have lesser games now. But yeah, do let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions. And with that, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.